You failed, Your Highness. I am a vlogger, like my vlogger before me. It's no good. I'm frazzled. Hey, look, Ma. I got a frazzle. Dance my cares away? Worries for another day. Let the music play. Down in Frazzle Rock. Down in Frazzle Rock. Down in Frazzle Rock. Down in Frazzle Rock. I am a bad WoW player. No, really, I am a bad WoW player. And no matter how much the group wipes, I never seem to learn. I always get kicked out of raids, cause I like to keyboard turn. Because I'm bad, I'm fail. You know I'm bad, I mean it. You know I'm bad, I suck. And you can call me noob or bad or fail. Let me tell you once again, I'm bad. Howdy gang, welcome to the second Bad Players WoW vlog. Thanks ever so much for joining me again. My name is Daniel Gagne, aka Rialthus Killdog, aka Bad Player 03. My topic this week is a growing, frustrating problem for casual players, queuing into the final segment of the current LFR, and a large part of the time ending up in a queue that has killed the second boss and is on its way to the third boss, final boss, Lei Shen. All too often, groups in this segment are needing to fill up with players at this very same spot. At times it gets so bad that a player will queue into one of these groups, see a bunch of people that ended up in the group at the same time as them all leave, wait for another batch of players to come along, only to watch them have a mass exodus of players, leaving with obvious disgust at being queued on the final boss. The alternative to waiting through multiple mass exoduses of queuing players is, of course, to leave the group and queue again. However, players who do this often wait in excess of 40 minutes to end up in the exact same frustrating spot. The trend seems to continue until either a proper group forms and the player is able to kill Lei Shen, in which case when they re-queue, they have a much greater but still not guaranteed chance of getting a fresh run for the segment, or until they get so frustrated and disgusted that they leave the group in disgust and they just give up on the idea of running that segment of the LFR for the week, which kind of sucks. The trend is becoming a growing frustration in the casual community, as for some it makes it extremely monotonous and time-consuming to try to get those final 2 tier tokens that are being held by the first 2 bosses in the segment. And for others, it just makes it hard to get that Lei Shen kill, whether they desire it for the Valor, for the achievement, or for some piece of gear that he drops. So what's the underlying cause of this trend? Well, there's several causes, actually. For starters, and maybe the most obvious, Lei Shen is one of the harder bosses to come to the LFR. The encounter requires 2 tanks working together who know what they're doing, and a number of players who understand their role in the encounter, and which particular quadrant they're responsible for in the battlefield, both of which are hard to get in a randomly assembled group. Why? Well, for starters, the LFR is full of tanks who think they can just queue into any encounter without any prior knowledge and preparation, do some tanking stuff, and lead the group to an easy kill. This doesn't work in the Lei Shen encounter, even on the LFR level, because the tanks control the group's chance of success in the encounter. Secondly, the DPS needs both someone to take leadership and divide them into groups of 4 to ensure that all 4 quadrants of the battlefield are handled in the transition, and the vast majority of the DPS needs to be willing to listen, understand, and follow instruction. And this is far from a sure thing when you queue for a random LFR group. I think it's difficult. The difficulty level of the fight's appropriate to the challenge, the final boss of a tier. Even on the LFR level, but perhaps the problem may be that the first two encounters in the segment are comparatively too easy and drop more interesting loot. This may be the second cause of the problem, the first 2 encounters being so much easier and dropping better loot, and yet the Lei Shen encounter being so much more comparatively difficult and dropping only a few pieces of interesting loot. For example, there's the nice tank shield that he drops, an offhand, a few nice trinkets. I know I also won Lei Shen's helmet on my DK the first time I killed him, and that was pretty cool. I mean, I really love walking around wearing Thunder King's helmet on my head, so that's a pretty cool thing to get for a tank wearer, or for a plate wearer, pardon me. There's also a few nice weapons they drop, but none of them have a shot gem in them, and this poses a problem for players because they have to seriously consider whether they want to use the new weapons or to use their gemmed weapons from the previous tier, and players like myself who've upgraded them a couple levels, it's an even bigger challenge there. And of course, the rest of the pieces are ones that the player, like legs and chests and stuff, that the players will replace when they get their tier pieces anyway. So really, there isn't a lot of motivation to fight Lei Shen, in terms of gear, and this where to at least not to compensate for the much more increased skill level requirement to down him. So the end result is that many more players may see the queue pop into the segment that only has Lei Shen remaining, and they feel ripped off and unmotivated, and that's that the best part of the segment is already done, and they'll leave in disgust. The few players who be willing to kill Lei Shen first, or even at all, are insufficient to fill the group until waves of unwilling players have gone through, and even the most willing of LFR raiders end up, waiting way too long to be reasonable, for a chance to actually kill Lei Shen. So what can Blizzard do about this? They can just continue to give the usual answer. Hang in there, wait for a full group, but down the final boss, and then requeue, and your chances will be far greater you'll get a fresh run. Well, this may be true and good advice, in general for LFR, but it's not becoming very, very comforting for groups that spend upwards of 2 hours to down the boss, and maybe even in some cases they never get to, never get a full group to even attempt the encounter, or even to do the trash, because the trash and the encounters are really tough as well. So that's not really a great solution. They can make the first two bosses tougher, but no, why would they do that? I mean, there's a reason why Blizzard has seldom ever buffed bosses. It's kind of cheesy for Blizzard to say, for example, they've added a couple of mechanics or a mechanic to this boss in the LFR that's been out for all these weeks. Just bad solution there as well. They could also revisit their idea in the first place, which was to make the first two bosses drop the best loot and not Lei Shen. However, I kind of like that idea. I don't think it's a bad idea at all. I think that making the last boss of the tier less mandatory for farming for the critical pieces of gear is actually a great way to keep the boss from losing its epic feel. I think I've killed the Shaw of Fear probably 50 times or more already trying to farm those helm tokens, which just don't seem to drop for me at all. And for the shot touch weapon, in a few cases there, you only need one of each of those. And I really don't feel like I'm fighting the final boss of the tier anymore. It's almost just routine. After all the times I've done it. I mean, really after the first 15 times or so, didn't really feel epic at all anymore either, like the final boss. So I was keeping the tier tokens on the first two bosses, making them the must kill farm bosses, and leaving the final boss to be the one that is just really to end the tier is actually not a bad idea, and I think it's kind of cool to keep that epic feel of the boss. Although in this case their efforts might have taken it too far and turned what they wanted to be an epic boss into more of a nuisance or a pain in the arse kind of boss. So really, what can they do to fix this? Well, a few ideas. Maybe they could throw a few vanity items onto Lei Shen, say a battle pet or two, or maybe a chance at a previous mount, maybe in a bonus satchel, that sort of thing. That'd make it more desirable to kill Lei Shen, but by no means mandatory. They could have changed their minds about the decision to have the new weapons with no shot touch gems or gem slots, and just put the gem slot on anyways. This would still make the weapons more desirable because of the fact that they'd be hands down better than the original ones, but yet still not maybe the end of the world if you didn't get them, because you have the original one with the shottish gem anyways, and it's still a comparatively good weapon, in the grand scheme of things. Finally, they could just have Lei Shen have a chance at dropping an additional Secret of the Empire or two for the legendary quest. So this would make the boss more desirable to kill, and perhaps even mandatory early on anyways, until that segment of the legendary quest is completed. But that's only for a few weeks, maybe, until the player has completed it, and then after that, it wouldn't be important anymore, wouldn't be mandatory. So it actually might make the most sense to help preserve the epic feel of the final boss of the tier much longer, because of the fact that the legendary segment may only last a matter of weeks. I guess in collecting all my thoughts about the topic, what I would like to see to make Lei Shen a better encounter would be to have him drop a bonus satchel, perhaps with a chance at some vanity pets, previous mounts, old mounts, some transmog gear maybe, and a chance at maybe a Secret of the Empire or two to help with the legendary quest. This will give the boss a little bit more, a little more desirability to kill without giving him that mandatory feel. And I think that's what Blizzard really really intends to do is, and that's the reason why they didn't have Lei Shen drop a tier token piece, is to just preserve that extra epicness a little bit longer. I think that would be the perfect solution to basically improve the counter and hopefully relieve the bottlenecks, if you will, and leave raiders queuing into the instance at that same darn spot all the time and always feeling like, wow, this is just not a cool segment of the instance. I might as well skip it. Give it a lot more playability value. With that, I'm going to wrap it up. Once again, my name is Daniel Gagne, and you can follow me on Twitter as BadPlayer03 with a capital B and P under the name Daniel Gagne. And you can view all these videos on my YouTube channel under BadPlayer03 as well. And you can email me at badplayer03@gmail.com. As always, I welcome feedback, suggestions, etc., and always love to hear from the community. Take care, all. Bye now.